All right, so welcome back. Last but not least, we're going to go over some examples of those fawn responses. So, yes, there is this newer identified survival response called the fawn response, and that is where you instinctively try to please others to avoid conflict or to avoid any discomfort. One way or another, it's for your survival, whether it's to save yourself some embarrassment or feeling uncomfortable. It's there, and people do have these responses. And sometimes people that have experienced a lot of trauma and they've realized that in order to survive, they have to people please, well, then that response is going to be taking over, even when it's no longer needed. So, again, this is going to be a short list. And it intertwines with many because just like the fight, flight, and freeze, there are some that are part of everything. Like disassociation is a freeze response, but it could also be a fight and a flight response, right? So let's get started with this. So for fawn responses, a fawn response looks like someone constantly seeking approval and validation from others, or taking on the responsibilities or problems of others, even when it's not their own. I don't know if this is sounding familiar. Experiencing any feelings of guilt or shame, even when it's not warranted. I remember having a client who ended up passing out at a concert because he was dehydrated, and the following week he came to see me and he was so guilty that he passed out, and he was thinking he ruined his friend's time at the concert and it was his fault. And so that is him having that fawn response, right? The other one would be pleasing others and putting their own needs aside. I'm sure this is sounding familiar for many of us. Or having difficulty setting healthy boundaries and saying no to others because they just want to please, because instinctively that's what they think they need to do, not realizing that they don't need to do that anymore. Or difficulty expressing their own thoughts, feelings, and opinions because maybe when they were growing up, doing any of those things to a parent or a caretaker maybe got them hit or beat or I don't know, just put in a very uncomfortable and sometimes possibly unsafe situation. A big one would be fear of abandonment and a need to constantly remain in relationships, even relationships that are not healthy. Or suppressing their own emotions and thoughts to avoid any conflict or disapproval from others. That's a big one that we see with the fawn response. And I mean, that's actually it for the fawn responses. And as if you remember from earlier ones too, I discussed how trauma symptoms can also show up in the body. So we have people that have experienced really upset stomachs, fevers, headaches, just chronic pain all over with no real medical reason why. Then it turns out that, they've had a lot of trauma. And so those are symptoms that have been paired with these other survival responses. So with that being said, thank you for